Hi, okay, so this is my second time recording this because the first one came out in 50 minutes and I was like, oh my god, and even editing it, I was just like, no. So this is my second go around. I'm gonna try to make it shorter. I'm not gonna try to look at it, scene by scene, just the whole entire thing. So hopefully it's not, an hour because that just sounds too much. So my first going into this was I had no idea there was a third one. When I saw I think it was on YouTube, the trailer of Deep Blue 3, Deep Blue Sea 3. I was like, wait, there was a sequel? Like, I had no idea that the second one came out in 2018. And I also reviewed that one. That will be up later. Like, I'm going to upload first the third one and then the second one because I'm going to upload them how I watched it. So I watched the third one first. I do want to preface that I absolutely love the first movie. Like, the first movie just I love it. So obviously this has, a reputation to live up to. And so let's start. Okay, like I'm gonna try to not go scene by scene, but I just want to talk about the first scene, which is basically Dr. Collins. I was very confused because obviously we are like, so she's basically vlogging, right? And so we see that she has like a GoPro and she's like narrating how like the history of the place where they at the little island, and that how because of global warming the waters are rising, it's basically disappearing, and that there's only two like habitants left. And so I was kind of wondering how like 'cause when she goes into the water she's also vlogging, but it was a GoPro, and I'm like, do GoPros catch audio, and especially if it's in water, like does she have a microphone? Because at first I thought like, oh, maybe it's like a voiceover thing, but like no, because then she looks behind her to Shaw, um and she talks to him and she's like, so I'm like, is this live footage or is it like I was kind of confused right there. That was just more a technical thing because I was like, how are they recording underwater? How is the audio picking up? But whatever. And and then we're introduced to Sally, a great white that apparently she's like super friendly, but it's kind of ironic because after basically Dr. Collins says that she's friendly, she slams Dr. Collins into a rock. And then Shaw's like, oh my god, and she gets like a little bit of a cut, and so they swim back, and then she continues her vlog and stuff like that. And so she and Shaw have this moment because Shaw's like very overprotective because Shaw knew her father, and she's like, I don't need another father or something like that, like chill. And so she basically offers him a beer, and he's like, okay, cool. And the moment that they walk towards this like other area, according to how it's edited and shown, it's literally seconds from where the last scene to the next scene, right? And when they walk into this like area, she grabs the beers and she grabs one for her, and she obviously throws the other one to Shaw, and then she looks at the tech guy, who I think is, I don't know, he has such a super complicated name, but the tech guy, and he's literally editing the footage, and like we know it's the footage that we just saw because we hear her yelling, and then we hear Shaw yelling towards her. So unless she's being like attacked repeatedly by sharks, like this just happened. So is it like uploading directly onto like, do GoPros have that capability? Like I had, like they just got out of the water, like I don't know if that's how it works. And like he even says like, oh, like it's gonna create like a lot of traction, all that stuff. I was kind of like, okay. And so right off the bat, like Dr. Collins kind of seems a little bit mean. She's kind of like this weird tension because like she's like, Maya tells her like, oh yeah, there's like 6 adult sharks and 6 like baby sharks and blah blah blah. And she's like, there has to be something wrong with that. Test it again. And there's just like this weird like, weird things. And then we're shown the cutest singing couple. They're super cute, and they're the two habitants who are still living there, and their house is literally, there's like water damage, and they basically just like walk carefully, and so he doesn't want to leave and she does. And they basically, he's kind of like, we have the life that we want, we're just fishing, and it's like very different ways of how she sees it, like we're in danger, and he's like, yeah, let's just chill. So but they're very cute. No, the sharks look fake, but I can overlook that for now. Starting out, I was like, you know what, I can overlook it because like I've watched other movies where the sharks are just horrible, like two-headed sharks, stuff like that. So as long as the entertainment value is higher, then I can go with it. Plus, sharks I think aren't easy to create. Like The Shallows did a pretty good job, but sharks sometimes always kind of look uncanny valley. I don't know if it's because it's, since they're in the water. And like I was watching a Dead Meat podcast, and they mentioned how like real life textures, like fire, is hard to like replicate. So maybe having a shark in the water is also hard to replicate. So I think when you don't like when you're not using actual, like, not real sharks, but like for example in Jaws when they use like mechanical sharks, I think your best bet is just to show like little bits of it. But anyways, now, focusing on like the whole entire characters, I actually did enjoy them. They were a little bit developed. Like I knew who kind of felt who they each were. They were pretty cute. Like you have like obviously Dr. Collins. You're shown that she does, her father died. She's very like headstrong. She's like, her own person. Like she's just like very like strong-willed, and she's, kind of like the head of the whole organization that they're doing. They're basically studying the ocean cove that they have right there. They're basically showing from like the smallest organisms to great whites, and they've been going like 3 years, I think. And then you have Shaw, who used to work for her father and now obviously works with Emma. And then you have Maya, and she has this very complicated like PhD degree thing, but she's like super smart basically, and she's funny, and she's, she makes jokes, and she kind of has this flirty relationship with Spinnaker. That's the tech guy's name. His name is Spinnaker. He's like the tech guy. He like, Wi-Fi, and he edits the footage, and he like makes all that happen. And then we see him later on hacking things, so like the tech guy basically. And then you have Bahari, who he's the one who's singing, and then Nadi, and she's Bahari's wife. And that's kind of like the main cast so far, right? And then, so then later they're introduced to Nathaniel. Sorry, that's his actor name. Richard, Dr. Richard. And Dr. Richard and Dr. Collins, Emma Collins, used to date, right? They used to date, and then we find out later that he basically, after her father died, he basically took a job and left, and they are not on good terms, and at the first time, they have zero romantic chemistry. Like, it's the most awkward thing. It's just like, what is happening? And so he, like, gives this whole thing of like why they're there, that they're looking for sharks, that these sharks are from this like lake that like attacked like half a dozen people, and that because of climate change these sharks have changed. And when he said the whole climate change thing, it came off so phony. I was like, please don't tell me that the movie is playing on this. Like I was like, really? Like, how are you going to explain to me that climate change is going to change these animals? I mean, it could, but it would take so long. And the thing is, he's like, we need to like get these sharks. But I'm like, wait, if you get these sharks in particular, who's to say what about the other sharks? Because like if climate change is changing all these sharks, then you would have to end up killing all the sharks. I was like, this don't make sense. Also, just like a thing unrelated, I bet the crew had so much fun filming this movie just because of the whole like fishes, because they go underwater a lot and there's like a lot of aquatic life, and it just looked so fun. I think they probably had fun. I hope they did. Again, how can they understand each other underwater? Like, I get some of them are like on the same team, like the Dr. Emma Collins and all of them. I think they have like comms or something, or radios or whatever. I don't know how it works underwater. They don't know. They don't explain it. But then you have Dr. Richard and Lucas. I forgot to mention Lucas. Basically, Lucas and Dr. Richard are looking for these sharks. They're basically hunting these sharks. And so they also have their own like muscle men with them. And so they go down to look for them because Dr. Richard's like, oh, we know that you have a program like called Titan, I think. Can you look up if there's been any bull sharks? And Maya's like, yeah, no, there's absolutely no record of bull sharks coming through. And so he's like, oh, we're still going to check just in case. And so both teams go down into the water for different reasons. They end up meeting because she goes to another part of the cove where there's these giant whites just eaten on the ground. And so she screams and goes back, and she's like, oh my god, there's sharks, like they've been eaten. And then Dr. Collins comes up and he's like, calm down. And you can tell that they can barely speak to each other because obviously they're speaking through masks. So I'm like, how can they understand? I mean, obviously later in the movie they like use signals to be like, oh, shark, but like they don't understand each other. So I'm like, I don't understand the technological aspect of this movie in the sense of like, okay, how are they underwater? But whatever. And then the dude named Brown dies. We don't they don't really like, I don't remember him. I don't know who he is, but he died. And so they do this whole thing of like, yeah, the sharks, you know, we need to kill them. They're dangerous. They're evolving. Blah 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 blah. And then they kind of are like, we need to team up because, you know, they just killed Brown. They're dangerous. They're like killing other sharks. So they have this little moment, which is like so weird because Dr. Richard tells Emma like, we need to collaborate. Like, please, we need, you know, tighten the software that Maya has to basically, you know, do this whole thing because how are we going to track them? Because we can't track them. And then Lucas makes this whole like sexist moment of like, oh, we'll bring a man here and you explain him what to do so he can like, you know, and instead of making it like, they could have done it like in a way like, oh, we just don't trust you. Instead, he's like, oh, sometimes a big man needs to help, and it's like, what? Like I don't get, like, okay, so they just want us to hate Lucas more. They want to paint Lucas more as like a villain or something. And obviously, Emma Collins stands up for Maya, and she's just like, Maya is this like badass who like she has all these like degrees, like no one can handle the system, like she made the system or what, like basically, just, you know, women supporting women. But yeah, I was kind of like, okay, so they definitely want us to not like Lucas. He's definitely not a great guy. And the thing is, and this up to this part, they've already have the shark has already apparently killed 6 other people plus Brown. So like the shark's dangerous, right? And they only have 2 inhabitants in this movie, in this island. I'm sorry, and they completely forget about them. Like they completely forget to tell them like, hey, maybe don't go fishing today. So obviously, who gets killed? Bahari. He just gets straight up murdered by the shark because he's chilling, singing his ukulele or his guitar, and you know he thinks that he's like his fish are like caught on the thing or whatever, and so he jumps into the water with a knife, and the shark just comes up and just slices off his hand in the most perfect way. It literally looked like someone caught a butterfly knife and just like. Anyways, I was like, how can you guys all forget that, you know, to warn this man and his wife that there's a shark? Anyways, when the other dudes, the muscly dudes and Lucas are in the water, Emma and Maya have this like girl chat moment. It was kind of awkward, but also it's awkward because Emma even says that she's an awkward person, that she doesn't really know how to kind of do girl talk, and she's just like, you know, kind of because Maya asks for advice because she likes Spinnaker and like they're flirting and she doesn't know what to do. And it's just very cute because also Emma had asked Spinnaker. She basically tells Spinnaker like, hey, can you hack the tracker to like see where the shark comes? And then he opens the computer where he goes into, basically connects to the, I don't know what he's doing, but the picture of his laptop is of him and Maya, and it's like the cutest thing. And I was for sure thought that he was gonna get killed right then and there because I was like, they show this cute picture of them, he's dying. He's dying. But no, he didn't die. Also, the whole spatial awareness, they don't really show you where everything is. So when they're in the water, it's very disorienting. So I'm like, I don't know where anything is. I don't know if that matters, but to me, it kind of like threw me off at moments. And then finally, they get one of the sharks, and it's basically, if it wasn't for Emma, Richard would have his whole arm chopped off because he grabs like the thing to like basically like put them to sleep, but he misses, and then Emma like grabs another one that she has and shoots it, and the thing basically falls asleep while he has Richard's hand, basically her entire arm inside him. So when they go into the water, the shark right there up close looked very real. I don't know if like how, if they, you know, use an actual shark or like not an actual shark, you know what I mean, like a mechanical like rubber shark or something, but it didn't look bad at all because she's also helping, you know, Richard with his like little wound, and they're flirting and they're having this moment. You know, they're just like they're evolving the relationship a little because you know, obviously he almost died, so like that kind of changes the mood. We're shown that Spinnaker like finds something, and then he completely forgets about it until Emma like brings it up. And I get he's mourning, but like, dude, you were like, because they show us, and he's like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And then he's like, hey, they lied to us. That shark didn't come from a lake or a river or whatever they told us. It came from this place. This place is where Carl Durant or whatever his like scientific lab was, and it exploded, and sharks whatever. And she's like, oh my god. So she goes to the boat because they're on another boat, I forgot to mention that. And she's basically like, what the heck is happening? But before she could do that, the other sharks, wait, no, I'm sorry, they're discussing things, they're yelling, they're arguing, blah 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 blah. And the thing that's most important, right, is he admits to her that, yeah, no, this is the global warming thing, it's bullshit. That's not true. They're not changing because of that. They are changing because they're genetically altered and we're hunting them down, not to kill them, but because we need them, because humanity, because these baby sharks imprinted to the tracker of the mom, and even though they logically know that their mom died, they still follow the tracker, and this will help humanity because it will make humanity feel. It was like the worst angle. I was like, this is really like, this is the worst approach. Like, at least the first one had a different approach with the whole Alzheimer's thing, but this one just felt so like, But I mean, compared to the second one, it was better, to be honest. Now watching the second one, this one is way better, but but I'm going off of my notes just watching the third one without watching the second one. Anyways, the part where Richard is negotiating with the sharks is hilarious. Like, I understand that these sharks, are experimental and super smart, but dude, I can't believe it worked. Like, he's literally grabbing a gun and he's like, no, like, move. Like, he's talking to these sharks like if they're human. And obviously, since they recognize the gun, because smart, and they move back, and I'm like, okay, like I said, when you don't give me point of reference of what can or can't the new experimental genetically altered shark can do, as long as there's some like semblance to reality, I will accept it. Like when they said like, oh, he recognizes the gun, I was like, okay, yeah, they've been hunting them, they probably see a gun, and they even mentioned that after they like try one method, they can't do that same method because the shark will adapt, which I'm like, okay, cool, get it. But when they do something like completely like wow out of the blue, like in the second one, oh my god. Anyways, watch my second review because I don't want to talk about that in this one. But yeah, Lucas just turns into a villain. Like, he was already like a bad guy. He wasn't that great, but he completely 180'd. He just starts like killing everyone. He just starts killing people. So like, I mean, there's only two people. Well, I mean, I guess if you count Maya and Spinnaker and Shaw, but he just starts throwing like just shooting and explosives and like killing the whole entire ecosystem. He's shooting at people. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, he is the I was confused because I was like, what the heck was it? What is his motivation, the reasoning? But then later, he basically explains to Dr. Collins that he was hired to clean up these millionaires, people's messes. Like, he didn't do it, but he has to clean up, and they now know too much because they had only come to this island under the pretense of like, oh, climate change sharks, and we're just gonna grab them or kill them. But now, Emma knows too much, and all of them know too much, and so now they have to kill them because they're cleaning up and stuff. And so Emma even goes to call and like all that stuff, but apparently Lucas cut the internet. Lucas. Anyway, there's this part that Collins literally blows up into the air, and she flew in the air. Like, it's like, it just looked so funny. I don't think the actress, like, it probably was like a stunt double, but I was like, whoa, like, she just looked like a pancake. Anyways, what's hilarious to me is that during this whole thing, she has time to change her outfit. Like, she changes into another bathing suit, she braids her hair, and I'm like, how does she have the time to, like, she's like doing all this super quickly, super fast. And Richard's still on the boat, right? Because Lucas brings him onto the boat and he's like, you need to make a decision. You need to stay here and get your paycheck, or you go back to your little girlfriend and die. And Richard looks back to Emma, and Emma's looking at him because Emma's, getting ready to go into the water because this Lucas, the crazy man that he is, put an mine into the cove where they're going to get the shark, and basically the mine would destroy the entire cove and destroy the whole island and destroy everything, basically, the whole entire ecosystem. They find out because they go with the drone into the water and sneak in there. Anyways, I'm over explaining things. I'm so sorry. Okay, going back. Richard, right? He's on the boat. He looks back to Emma and he's just like, you know what? I would rather be with her than you. And then just jumps into the water. And this man, mid-jump, the shark jumps up and eats him. And Lucas actually tears up. And I'm like, hold up. Lucas actually like Richard? Like, there were moments where they were like friendly and friends. And I'm like, this man, maybe he wasn't that, just super villain evil. Because after that, even though the death felt very anticlimactic, but like, it was okay. Lucas just really goes one up. Like, his, like, at first I thought, like, okay, like, just like a villain. But in reality, maybe he was actually mourning Richard because he goes onto the island and looks for Shaw and just starts fist fighting this man for no reason. Just goes and fist fights him. And I'm like, oh my god, he did care for Richard, in his own weird way. And At this point, I'm like, they better not kill that cute couple, because since then, when Lucas started like shooting at everyone and shooting everything and creating explosions, because he also got the gas and all that stuff, they ended up in like the shack. And so Maya and Spinnaker ends up in the shack. Shaw ends up another way, and then Shaw tells Emma, you need to go get the mine, I'll go get the other people and save them. And he ends up not being able to save them because there's fire and all that stuff. And so, like, and also, Shaw reminds me of The Rock, like his humor and the way he's talking. I was like, he's The Rock. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, and then this was just the moment where I was like, he's definitely gonna die. They're crossing too many cliches for this man not to die. Spinnaker starts to profess his love for Maya, basically saying like she's the best. He's like, that all these cute things of her and like how their relationship, and that she always like laughs at his jokes, like all these things. And then they kiss and talk about the future and that they hope that they hang out after this. And I'm like, I know this man is gonna die. And 2 seconds later, he gets eaten, like, just like that. And I was like, it was about time. They had done all the cliches. I knew it. And then I was like, I'm rooting for her to live. The thing is, the shark literally circles her in front and the back, and she just does not, like, not even acknowledges it, and then she screams, right? And then we're told to think that she's dead. Spoiler alert, she is not. She just goes inside the cabinet and just goes out into the sea until they pick her up. Anyways, Emma and Naughty pick her up. And at this point, you're like, okay, all the characters that I'm supposed to care about are dead. And so they go back to Emma, and Emma's in the water. She finally gets to the mine, and Sally, yes, Sally the great white sharks, basically saves her life. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I accept that. I get that. You know what? Sure. And like I said, the sharks don't look bad. At this point, I'm like, they don't look bad. And, okay, so now she puts the mine on the boat, and Lucas is so like happy. And then the thing is, I'm like, Lucas, why didn't you put two and two together? Like, you see Emma getting out of the water without anything, and you see her with Shaw, and you don't think, maybe I should double check before I, turn the explosion on. Well, anyways, he like presses the button and his ship explodes, and now obviously the shark that was in the ship goes into the water, and I'm like, okay, now there's 3 sharks instead of 2. And now they're free, so what now? And I'm like, then I check the time, and there's still 30 minutes left, and I'm like, oh my god, what are they gonna do? And everything, and the thing is, everyone is just so eager to jump in the water, and I'm like, what are they going to do? Why is everyone just so like, oh, I'll go in. And they have like, Naughty has spears, and they don't have a lot, and so they make up this like makeshift plan, and the drone that has like their mom's like tracker that's emitting the frequency that brings them back, it gets caught on like this soccer like net. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Shaw jumps in. This basically was like, I think it was like a tribute to the first one, but gender swapped, because in the first one, obviously it's the doctor. She, sacrifices herself for no reason. Anyways, Shaw goes in there, and I don't know why. Shaw is just not swimming. He's just treading water. And I'm like, okay, why are you sacrificing yourself? Like, he was the one who was most against this plan, because we see him and they're like, no, we need to leave. And Nadi and Emma are like, we're the only ones left, and we're the only ones who know about these sharks, and we're the only ones who can kill them and save the world, or humanity, or whatever. And so he's the one who's most against the plan, and then he's the one who ends up being, dead. He, like, yeah, I guess he protects Emma, but he died. And then, like, Lucas, after being, like, blown up in his ship, he's alive. This man literally looks like a supervillain, because I'm just like, okay, like, he just starts fighting Emma, starts choking her out, like, I think slashes her abdomen and slashes her arm, and then for some reason puts the knife down, because he's like, I'm gonna choke her out. And then Emma, like, hits him or something, and Naughty is throwing spears at this man, and when he, like, pulls back, like, oh, you can't hit me with the spear, Emma grabs the knife and just stabs him in the heart, and this man is still moving, and then she has to punch the knife in, and then he finally dies, and I'm like, anyways, there's 1 shark left, and I'm like, please don't tell me they're gonna make her sacrifice herself, please. And they do not. This part was actually pretty cool. But Emma is injured. We can see that she can't walk, and she's swimming faster than a genetically altered shark. Okay, and I'm supposed to believe that? Okay. And so she gets into basically the trash bin, which also has a compactor. And so since it's like falling into the water, kind of, she is able to grab her hand from the inside out and just push the button to compress the shark, and the shark is still swimming towards her even though it's becoming compressed. And because the shark is like moving around, she's also punching and kicking the shark as much as you can. It was pretty cool. But since the weight of the shark, the thing falls even lower, so she, like, obviously the water rises, and so she has to like get up to get water, and so her hand slips and the shark gets closer, and then finally she's able to grab it, like, press it, and the shark just explodes. There's shark organs everywhere, and I'm like, she's gonna get an infection in those wounds. And then Nandi helps her out, and they go into the little boat that Nandi has, and they're like, okay, those are the two survivals. And I was like, oh my god, they did the final film. I mean, they did the final thing in the first film, just gender swapped, right? Like, But then, dude, Sally said goodbye. Sally said goodbye to Emma, and I was like, cool. I mean, sure. And then we're shown that Maya is alive. She literally survived by being in a cabinet, and she just was in the middle of the ocean, and by pure chance, Emma found her. And that's the movie. Okay, so my final thoughts on this movie. The first time I watched it, I was like, okay, the last 30 minutes were very slow. The pacing was just so dreadful. But I was entertained. I was entertained, and the characters were actually characters. They didn't feel like one-dimensional. And now that I watched the second one, this one was way better than the second one. Honestly, it was a big improvement. Some of the deaths were very anticlimactic. Oh my god, I forgot to mention one death. When because Shaw is fist fighting this other dude, because Lucas is like, tells this other dude, you finish him off. And Lucas just rises, because the shark is coming, right? And Lucas just rises this man up into the air with all his might, and the shark jumps out of the water and decapitates this man. That's what happens. I forgot to mention it, but that happens. That also happens in the second movie, but in this one, it looked more realistic, and I believed it more. So yeah, honestly, I do recommend this movie. If you have time, it was really fun. The sharks looked real. The story of, the whole, like, make humanity feel was kind of like, but the difference between Lucas and Richard was actually, I believed it, because Lucas is more of like I'm just here to clean up messes, I'm gonna get paid, and that's it. Richard is more altruistic and more like humanity, and Emma obviously is way more, human in that sense, even though she also recognizes that the sharks need to go because they are not natural and they are even a danger to the sharks. So, like I said, watch this movie. It's honestly good. I really enjoyed it. I had fun. And all the characters had something to do in this movie. Yeah, sometimes I'm just like, the last with all the killings, kind of like, but I get it. And yeah, it felt like a complete movie. It felt like it had an introduction, a middle part, and a conclusion, and I liked that, because compared to the second one felt like it started right in the conclusion, and I was very confused. And this one, I was like, okay, this character's a funny character, this guy's a tech dude. Like, each person had an archetype, but that's usually how they are in movies. It's not a bad thing to have those archetypes, or there's like not stereotypes, archetypes. But yeah, I really liked this movie, and I recommend it. I think the actors did a pretty good job. They all, they had chemistry, they were funny, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it more. Like I said, I liked it way more than the second one. The first one, nothing tops the first one, to be honest. But this one did a pretty good job, and I'm so glad that this video did not extend more than 15 minutes. I am so grateful for that, because I was like, I don't know how much I talked in the first one, but this is what it is. I'm gonna leave it like this. Obviously, I cut off a lot of details to the movie, so if you want to watch it in its entirety, please go watch it. Like I said, I, summarized some parts, but other parts I kind of went over because I didn't want to go too long. But yeah, like I said, we're summarizing for the fourth time. I'm kidding. But like I said, I liked it. So yeah, this was my little analysis, review, rambling, whatever this is. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and bye. Hi, quick update before I leave. So I just was rewatching the first edition of this video that I did, the 50-minute one, and I basically listened to the ending, and I want to basically kind of clarify that in this one, I had like, the first time I filmed this, I hadn't watched the second one, and this time around, I did watch the second one, and obviously I'm comparing this one a lot to the second one. The second one was so bad. This one looks way better. But since I had watched the third one, on its own without watching the second one, it was not that great. So if you're only watching the third one by itself, do not go into it with high expectations. Like I said, the last part is very slow paced. I would have loved, just like I said, if they had done like in the first movie where they showed us more of the day to day life. It was a bit rushed in some parts. Obviously, when Nathaniel, what's his name? I keep saying the actor's name, but Richard Mealy gets there. Like everything, it started feeling a bit rushed, and then it felt very slow. I feel like the last 30 minutes they could have incorporated into the first part of the movie to show us more of how their day to day life. I mean, yes, they were able to show us some of the characters, and it felt more like they didn't feel one dimensional. But like I said, I was comparing that to the second movie. Standalone, just take everything with a grain of salt if you're watching the third one for the first time, in the sense of like you didn't watch the second one, you only watched the first one. But if you had already watched the second one, then this one is way better than the second one. I feel like I'm probably hyping it up because of those reasons. But yeah, don't expect this amazing movie. I mean, the actors did a great, they did good, and the characters were all different. They weren't like, oh, the same, no, like, but some of the pacing was a little bit off. I will admit to that. From very fast to then slow. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to come back and say that I did kind of, there's a difference to the tone of the first one, because the first time I did not watch the second one, and this time around I did. So I unfortunately was comparing it a lot to the second one, and yeah. So I just wanted to add that to the ending. So yeah, bye.